You're listening to the Natalie Parker Studio Podcast, episode number 14. In today's episode, we're unpacking the question a lot of artists ask me, and I've also asked myself this question in the past: is my work good enough? That's coming on up in today's episode. Welcome to the Natalie Parker Studio Podcast, the podcast for women artists who are ready to pursue their creative dreams so that they can thrive both in life and in business. I'm your host, Natalie Parker, artist and mentor to women creatives around the globe. In this podcast, I'll share with you the strategies, principles, and mindset that you need to build a purposeful and fulfilling creative business. If you're ready to be inspired, encouraged, and equipped to build the art business of your dreams, then you're absolutely in the right place. Let's dive into today's episode. Hey there, artists, and welcome to the show. Well, it's been a cranking week here at Natalie Parker Studio. We've wrapped up our Art Biz Startup series, and we've also welcomed a lot of new amazing artists into the Art Biz A to Z program. Now, as we've been going through that, this question has come up a lot. Is my work good enough? That is why I want to unpack that topic with you today. But before we jump in, I just want to give a shout out to the Pink Pellet who left this really cool review for the podcast where she says, so helpful and easy to listen to. I was so excited to find this podcast. Natalie is full of useful information and is so relatable as she's lived it all. I can't wait to keep listening and growing my business with her insightful help. Thank you, Natalie, and thank you, Pink Palette, for leaving such a cool review. So if you head over to ratethispodcast.com/Natalie Parker, super simple, you can just even click the link below and leave a review for us, and you'll have the chance to be featured on this show. Okay, let's jump into today's topic. Have you ever asked yourself or someone else the question, is my work good enough? Now, I've asked myself this question for many years in the past. I've also given other people and institutions the power to answer this for me. For example, when applying to art shows or galleries, I subconsciously was asking the question, is my work good enough? Is my work good enough for this show? Is my work good enough for this gallery? Now, if the acceptance letter came back in my favor, then my work was good enough. If it was rejected, it was not good enough, and I took that to believe that I was not good enough. I've also done this when I've posted my work on social media, and I've asked myself the question, is my work good enough? If it gets the likes, if it gets the comments, the engagements, the shares, then I took that to believe that my work was good enough. If it didn't, if there was crickets, if there was very low likes or even harsh comments, then the work was not good enough. Now, when I've launched new collections or offered new works for sale, I've asked myself, is my work good enough? Now, if the sales came through, the work was good enough. If the sales did not, the work was not good enough. That was my way of thinking for so long. Now, this kind of mind drama is not serving anyone well, especially you. When we connect the results, the validation, the approval of others, the sales, to the value of our work and ourselves, we are in a very dangerous position. This is what creates that spiral of doubt, fear, low confidence, and can ultimately derail us from the one thing that we love, which is to create our art. So, the real question we need to ask ourselves is, if we're even asking the question, why is my work good enough? What is the real belief behind why we are asking this question? Now, the first reason I believe we ask others to answer this question for us is because we are seeking the approval of others. We haven't yet developed the confidence in our own abilities, and therefore we seek someone else to validate our work so that we can feel more confident about ourselves and putting our work out there. Now, this is a biggie, especially if you are a self-taught artist. Sometimes you believe that because you didn't go to art school, that your work is not good enough, that it will never line up with the standards of art school graduates. The second reason we ask the question, is my work good enough, is because deep down, we don't believe in ourselves. We haven't yet developed our self-esteem to the point where we feel comfortable sharing our work or even calling ourselves artists. Now, if you are currently creating work, you are an artist. If you're not confident about calling yourself an artist, go and check out the podcast episode that answers that question for you, because it is very, very important that you back yourself if you're going to grow in your art. The third reason we ask the question, is my work good enough, is sometimes because we're actually trying to stay in our comfort zone. It's almost like we're asking that question so someone will come back and go, no, it's not good enough. Keep practicing. Because if you believe your work isn't good enough, you will then use it as an excuse to hold you back from moving forward. You won't share your work. You won't put a price on it. Instead, you'll go back to the studio and keep working on it. You'll move the goalposts further and further away so that you never actually have to show your work. Why? Because if you don't share your work, then no one can judge you. Then no one can reaffirm that belief you have about yourself and your work that it is not good enough. Now, the problem with this way of thinking is that you're going to stay stuck in a cycle of second guessing yourself. I don't know how many artists have told me, hey Nat, so-and-so wants to buy my work, but they haven't sold it to them because they say things like, I don't know how to price it. I'm not sure they are really serious. What they're really saying to me is, I don't believe my work is good enough, so how can someone else believe it's good enough? Why are they saying they want it? Why are they offering to buy it? So here are the consequences that are going to happen if you, no one else, don't start to believe that your work is good enough. Number one is the obvious. You will miss out on the sales. And like I mentioned, people may even come and offer to buy your work, but if you don't believe it's good enough, you're not going to put a price on it and you're not going to sell it. The second thing that can happen is your business will not grow, or it will not grow very fast. If you're not 100% into the product that you are offering, if you're not seeing the value in your work, the value in your prints, your workshops, your classes, then no one else is going to go see the value and they're not going to exchange the money in reply for the goods that you give to them. And the third consequence is if you don't believe in the value of your work, if you don't believe it's good enough, and this is the most important, you will rob others of the blessing of your work. So like I mentioned before, people are coming, they're wanting to buy your work, if you don't sell your work to them because you don't believe it's good enough, they miss out on the joy, they miss out on the blessing of having that work, that thing they desire, that they want in their home. So the real question is, how do you start to move forward? How do you answer the question to yourself, is my work good enough? Now, only you can answer this question, and only you should answer this question. When people come and say to me, Nat, is my work good enough to start building an art business? I will never answer that question, because it doesn't matter what I believe. It matters what you believe about your work. Here's why I don't want you to operate from what someone else believes. Now, you all know my story, that I was the arty-farty chick right through primary school and high school. So in primary school, living in a small town, doing all the art competitions, winning all the competitions, go to high school, top of my art class, right through the 7 years I was there. We started in Form 1, right through to Form 7, which is year 13. Come year 13, I'm working on a design portfolio. So I was, back in the day, when was it? 1999 was my last year of high school. I did a 4-panel design piece. Back in those days, wasn't using a computer, everything was by hand. Now, I worked in a fish and chip shop right through high school when I was, at high school. It was my part-time job. So my design portfolio was designing new packaging and branding for the fish and chip shop that I was working in. So I was doing these beautiful watercolor detailed drawings of fish. I was creating the packaging and all those kinds of things. When I went to my appointment to get into art school, so we had to, we drove to Wanganui, you had to take your portfolio of work to show the directors whether your work was up to standard to get into art school. Now, there was about 3 or 4 people there. There was a director, the teachers, it was a big round table. I was very nervous, had my parents with me. I opened up my portfolio, I was showing them my work, and they loved it. They thought it was amazing. They're like, Nat, this is great. You're going to get really good marks for your NZQA, for your year 13 school scene. I was like, awesome, thank you. Left that, and I got, accepted, got my acceptance letter. I was accepted into art school based on, getting like a B bursary or this kind of average or whatever grades we needed to get. Then came prize giving for year 7 as well. Form 7. And same thing happened. I got approval from my art teacher. I got top of year 13 art, top of design. Ended up getting even ducks of the school. So I've got this body of work. My teacher has validated it. She's marked me the top of the class. The art school that I applied to loved it, and they accepted me into art school. 6 weeks later, when our school C results came through, they came in the mail. I remember going to the mailbox to get my results, and I opened them up by myself quietly because, I was just a little bit nervous. Scrolled through all my grades, came down to art design, and it was a D. I failed my final year of school C art. To say I was devastated was an understatement. Again, I had these moments of breakdowns. That was one. There's only a few moments of breakdowns in my life that I can remember. That was one of them. And I remember my mum coming out and consoling me. And I was so confused. How did the same body of work get told it was good enough by my art school teacher? It was good enough according to me. That was the best work I'd ever produced. I loved it. My mum even still has some of the pieces. It was good enough and great according to the art school directors who told me that it would get great marks. And yet NZQA, with their system of what was good enough, I didn't hit the mark. I failed. Then I was left with that dilemma of how am I supposed to go to art school? And I failed art. I've never, ever failed an exam in my life. and I failed high school art, and I was going to art school. Long story short, I went to art school. It was not an issue. I got B bursary because I got good marks in all my other subjects. But I had to carry that around with me. I had to work through that stigma, that confidence hit. But what it taught me was that it did not matter what anyone else thought about my work. It only mattered what I thought. It also showed me that lots of people have different opinions about what is good enough. So for example, let's carry on the fish. You might post a picture of a fish on your Instagram. Someone might write a really nasty comment or not like it. Or you might have an art show. You've got lots of fish artwork and people walk past, oh, I don't like that. It has nothing to do with you and your work. It is simply their ideas, their perception. It honestly might just be that they don't like fish, or, they prefer pictures of buildings. So asking anybody else to validate whether your work is good enough, I don't want you to do that. That's why I won't answer that for you. So the question now is, what do you need to do to start to believe that your work is good enough and to not give anyone else that power over you? The first thing you need to do is to start to see the value in your work and yourself. Continue to work on your confidence. Build your self-esteem. The more you believe in your work, its value, and in yourself, the more others will be attracted to it. And even if people don't like it, it won't affect you as much. Number 2 is to acknowledge that this is the best work you are currently producing in the season that you are in. Okay, so this is your current skill level. This is the style of work you're currently working with. It may change, it may adapt. This is the size of the work that you're using, and these are the current materials that you're working with. Now, the reason I say this to you is because back in 2008, when I first started selling my work, now I did sell the odd work back in 2003, 2004 when I left art school. Back in 2008 was when I finally let that creative gift come up. I'd had a prior 5-6 year period where I was working hospo, I was working as a PA, I was trying to push that creative dream away unsuccessfully. And I would come home from my PA job late at night and I was like, you know what? I just want to paint. And so I started to teach myself how to paint. Now, keep in mind, when I went to art school and I did my BFA, I did not major in painting, I majored in sculpture. So painting was very new to me. I was like, I don't even know how to work with these acrylics. I don't know these mediums. I don't feel like I'm blending it properly. My skills and my techniques, they still need improving. But I was doing the best that I could with the skills and the abilities that I had in that season. Now, I started to show some of this work to some of my close friends who I knew that I trusted. And you know what? They loved it. And they wanted to buy my work. Now, I felt very self-conscious about that. And I know many of you've actually told me this. You're like, hey, Nat, people have come to me and they've said they want to buy my work, but I don't believe it's good. But they do. So here's the thing. I was like, you know what? They like it. Okay. Who am I to rob my friend of the joy of this work? So I sold some pieces to them for, like $20. Okay. Then 2009, 2010, I went and I did my teaching degree. I was developing my painting skills. Then I started to, go back and produce some more works. And I started to sell the odd bit here and there on Trade Me. Now, Trade Me is kind of like, if you're an Aussie, it's Gumtree. If you're in the States, it's Craigslist. So I uploaded these works, and you could upload them as auctions. Now, sometimes when you upload them as a dollar auction, the price grows and grows. You sell them for $100 or more, right? Sometimes though, you sell them for $1. So there were the odd times where I'd sell an artwork for $1. But you know what? That was the level that I was at for that particular season. 2008. 2022, where we are now, 14 years later, my large works sell for over $2,000 and growing. My question to you is, should I have waited 14 years, 2008 to 2022, before I felt my work was, quote marks, good enough to start to sell it? Because you know what's happened in those 14 years? I have sold over 500 artworks and counting. So if I had have decided until what my version of good enough was, those 500 homes, those 500 ladies, they would have missed out on having my beautiful work in their home. They would have missed out on having that work that's going to bring joy and beauty to their life, something that makes them feel happy. We all love beautiful things in our spaces. So who am I to determine what is good enough? The number 3 thing that I want you to do to start to believe that your work is good enough is I want you to acknowledge where you are, like number 2, absolutely. But number 3, I want you to continue to raise your standards. Now, when I go through my art business training, I show examples of what my Instagram was like in 2013. It was nasty. And what I mean by that is the filters, the presentation, it was not on point. The photography, now, oh my, the standards are way higher. Obviously, our phones have got better, but my presentation has got better. I have continued to raise the quality of materials I use. I frame my works. I speak a lot better about my works. I'm more confident in what I do. My technical skills have improved, absolutely. And because of that, I attract a higher ticket client. So you should every day, tiny bit, not huge. Okay, this has taken me years to get to where I am. Slowly but surely raise the standards of your presentation. Improve your technical skills. Learn how to talk about your work. Now, I have been pulled up on this just 2-3 years ago. I went back to New Zealand. We're from New Zealand. Went back to New Zealand to visit. I went and saw my mentor. Now, love her. She corrected me. She said to me, hey, Nat, there was 2 things. 1, Nat, you need to raise your prices. And 2, Nat, you need to speak better about your work. She did not say specifically what I had said. She did not point out the post, but I knew in my spirit what she was referring to. And she was referring to my post where I had posted some work and said things like, hey, just send me whatever you want. What will you pay for this? Just whatever offers, just DM me, I'll accept it. Now, you know what's wrong with that? That came from a place of what I thought was goodness, what I thought was generosity. But what that communicated to my client was, you know what? You determine the value of my work. You say how much it's worth. I don't really know if it's valuable, but can you tell me my work is good enough? And you know what? No one likes that. So if you give your client the opportunity, you have a beautiful work, okay? And you say to them, you have 2 choices. Choice 1, you pay $1 for this artwork. Choice 2, you pay $1,000. What is your client going to choose? They're going to choose $1. Absolutely. So your job as an artist is to communicate the value of your work that shows up in how you speak about it and how you present your work. So it's very, very important that you believe in the value of your work. And the number 4 way that I want you to start to believe your work is good enough, and honestly, this is the best way for me. This is how I run my business. This is a vision of my business, is I remove myself. My gift, my business is not about me. It's not about how much art I sell. It's not about how many students come into my programs. It's not about how much money I make. It is about the people that I influence, the people that I bring joy and beauty to, whether it be selling my works into their homes, or it's about the students that I impact, the students that I help grow their businesses so that they can step into their purpose. That is ultimately why I do this. You know this, I've said this since day one. My vision is to thrive as an artist. Why? So that I can help you as an artist build your own thriving business, because it is 100% possible. And if my life is an inspiration to you, and I pray that it is, then I have fulfilled my vision in life. I have fulfilled my purpose. So when I take my eyes off, is my work good enough? Oh, I don't know, is my podcast good enough? Or is that course good enough? I'm just going to pull back. I'm going to hold back. I'm not helping anybody. There are people out there like you that wouldn't have been impacted if I hadn't have done this podcast. There are clients that wouldn't have been impacted if I hadn't have shown up, done the work, put it out there available for sale. So take your eyes off yourself, because ultimately your work is not about you. Do not rob others of the blessing of your work in their home. If anyone is coming to you right now and telling you they want to buy your work and you are not setting a price, you are not letting them, you are robbing them. Do not do this, because your work is good enough in their eyes. Okay? There is a client out there for every style of work. Now, if you need me, if you need a community of artists around you to support you, to help build your confidence, to teach you the technical skills that you need to improve your work, then that is what the Confident Brush is for. I specifically called it the Confident Brush because you know what? I looked at where I was at and I was like, I don't understand why there are so many super duper talented artists like you out there who aren't backing themselves, who don't have the confidence to go out there to sell their work, to share their work, to build the businesses, to step out. The Confident Brush is about equipping you with those technical skills that you need to be more competent in your art. So when you go to share your work, you feel more confident in your work. The more confident you are, the more people that you can help. So in March, we're going to be opening the doors for new artists to join us. And we have 100 artists plus in there right now. And I absolutely love the community. But you know what? There is space for you. So head over to the link in the bio. I'll pop it in the show notes. You can join the wait list and I will notify you as soon as the doors open. Okay, lovely. Well, that is a wrap for today's episode. If you have loved this episode, would you do me a favor and share it on IG and tag me in at Nellie Parker Studio? I absolutely love to connect over there with you. I love to encourage you and to help you pursue your creative dream. I'll be back here next Monday when our episodes drop with another fab show to help inspire, encourage, and of course, to equip you to build the art business of your dreams. I will see you then. Have a fabulous day. Thank you, and I'll check in with you then.